By now, what to be? Sir President John Dramani Mahama allegedly and are rumored say was suspended the Chief Justice, Madam Gertrude Tokono. Emremuno. Does the president have that right? One. And then, many exclusive details on some of the petitions from my sources. Once I catch us, many some exclusive details on the petitioner a president to establish a prima facie or the best suspended the Chief Justice for the process to continue. Now, eno sa analysis in the petition against Chief Justice no eden na wom. Does the president have the power to suspend the Chief Justice? Exclusive details. Charges a Diabo Justice get to Tokoni. At least 3 petitions no. Me with details on 2 from my sources, deep truth sources. And then I'm a Debra high critical analyst and message so best subscriber me. What subscriber and what click the notification me the video be to ma ube wet me ashibi. Me know why analysis way da. Me catch say obi the subu obi bo Chief Justice, especially the remedy no and as a solution e article 146 of our constitution. Into me constitution in here. Into article 1464 now or say when the Chief Justice decide that there's a prima facie evidence where you against a court of another judge of the Supreme Court no, but say charge near the Supreme Court Justice now near the president will have to determine the prima facie evidence no, based on the Council of State, no matter committee, no matter shinimu. So it means that so about Supreme Court judge be sobo, and also about the Justice of the Supreme Court sobo. President so transitions are copied the mother's Council of State for the Council of State to decide the prima facie evidence of the case. Now, show the composition of the Council of State at any given time. The Council of State were retired Justice of the Supreme Court on the Council of State. Now, as a president, has a copy of sa petition to the Chief Justice and the President John Dramani Mahama. No, so kuboni crew. Now, allegation against onunin crew. No need to be determined any kind of prima facie evidence. Now, see, determine prima facie now. Or say, the President has the authority to suspend the Chief Justice. Yes. Article 146. The President has the authority to suspend the Chief Justice pending the determination of the case. And to shall Article 1469 or say the President shall in each case act in accordance with the recommendation of the committee. Where a petition has been referred to a committee under this article, that is 10 or clause 10, the President may A, in the case of the Chief Justice, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State by warrant signed by him, suspend the Chief Justice. So meaning that the President Mahama Beyano Kre so was suspended Chief Justice. It is not adverse with the law. And I say enye illegal, legal. Emrane say the subobo Chief Justice. Say committee in it nancy chichem determine prima facie. Sa brofo kakrakani ni eche say committee ni say ade na yede 2 Chief Justice so no. Nyina so bi woman president wo ho kwan so beka the Chief Justice ejira nchen ni ewie sa process no. That is what we are hearing. Now sa mra anansa sa petition no be jina so to determine the prima facie no. Petition ni eden. Again, Osha Article 146. Most of these petitions, no, and I say even the process to determine the prima facie, Emrane say it will be held in camera. Material in camera, Teresa, you be a damn, na bonting. Because some of the issues may be grave, maybe be good justice in any mass, it be good judiciary in any mass in camera. Now, in camera, say the petition and public. That is why I told you, say, the sources be and this information. So I'm going to go into what the sources have told me. So my first petition is because of some circumstantial evidences. In law, you can have the eyes will be cool, right? When your body no nipan of DNA ni bibia or ha the evidence. But to be to say be any issue threat to be. or send a text message be or contain a warning when the juman be a circumstantial evidence. It's based on these circumstances, and the mommy GD and your sources snake catch them the crap. What are these sources telling me? One, petition back on air from an assistant superintendent from the Ghana Police Service. Your friend ACP Ayamba Yakubu Akurugo. And then we do be film. On the petition started case started on October 25, 2022. And to people say, but you police ni or say lawyer there. I don't know who the Chief Justice. This is where the story begins. Takrade. Ana ACP Ayamba Yakubu Akurugo. Or say a lawyer. Or a police ni senior officer was ACP Assistant Superintendent of Police. Now, me what the case file from the High Court of Takrade. Case in a court Supreme Court. Maybe a branch and an say ye jailing in 2 hours because allegedly with the Chief Justice at them. It took senior officers, including now, Papa I am nominating someone called the General Legal Counsel, friend Dr. Basit Bamba of the University of Ghana and the Pacho. I'm a branch, the Supreme Court judge is a ruling on matter, and I'm a tom yam, and then a watch. The Supreme Court for no more to turn some photos are or your better contempt. What or why was ACP Ayamba Yakubu angry to the extent say, Osha Ghana Web Report, I'm there to see ya. Who did the Chief Justice at the Justice of the Supreme Court? Now, senior lawyers, Dr. Basit Bamba, Adoetua, a sorry wa court, a patrol, a demand. Interestingly, case will be coming. The lawyer for South Police on only the current Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Ramsay, on also a former lecturer or Gempa, say there, or the University of Ghana School of Law. It's a very interesting case I'm do be calling. Now let's go to the case file. Case in the beginning say to share document now. It is Ayamba Yakubu Akurugo against Papa Pra at Black Eagle. Ebusuapeni Kwesi Bediakon and Bram Rodenbeck. Bram Rodenbeck kimikoma bonse oye Netherlands ni obetena Ghana. A woni abare bi chimpna. Na boya no ne chimpna no. Ekoton ne property bi ma sa police ni we. Ekowi akire no, ekoye se sa power of attorney Bram yi abano ne chimpna de to document ni to gina so e de ton property ni ma police ni no. Na ye fraudulent. How did the court know? How did you say to know? This is the case file. Yankoso. Now, case be a file. The plaintiff no any nipa no dey asam ne court no boni nkru no boy. Mama Potomo say the plaintiff case is that he purchased a property located at number 2 Celestine Street, Buzia, from one Brian Rodenbeck, a Dutchman who was resident in Ghana up to 2013. Until up to 2013, Brian will be free Ghana, Netherlands, no property where Western region. Now I say that the purchase is evident by a deed of assignment dated October 9, 2015. Or see deed a letter Lands Commission their money in actually say property no wato. Every branch a friend of Brian Rodenbeck iwo. Sir, property no. A branch no. Ni interest na aka wo no 46 years. Unso oto asase bia ya ma yin bia 99 years ni ade. Na Brian no o set time o free Ghana ko na ni interest aka wo sa property nim no 46 years. Okay. Now, I say that Brian Rodenbeck negotiated, signed, and executed the deed of assignment through his lawful attorney, Madame Evelyn K. Laye. Now, Madame Evelyn K. Laye, no, you're wine, much later, but maybe I would mean channel. No, you're Rodenbeck and a name Pana, and an a canchema, send your mobile canon. It is also the case of the plaintiff that Madame Evelyn Laye's authority to negotiate, sign, and execute the deed of assignment for and on behalf of Brian is evident by the power of attorney which was duly given to her by Brian Rodenbeck dated 1st January 2014. Or see, Evelyn, no power of attorney or trauma or no police, no general so the top property no. Brian the demand. Brian would dear the property no ano negotiate. It be a document be or will be an legal. Enti won hu nyenti a afa ya say be ye court nsam ne ade ana obe so mo ka che ne say property na wato ne nye no kre mate ase yenkoso we say plaintiff averts that Brian is not the alludial title owner of the property in dispute. Brian purchased his property from family now more second in 2020 in 2021 any idea. So this is basically the case. Now case in ekoso na no third defendant and so ebebo ni nkro third defendant here Brian wanna make us free Netherlands on Ghana ni be trim na western region on only case here then the case in say it's simply that he has never engaged anyone to sell his property or had engaged anyone as his attorney to sell his property on his behalf, and that any purported sale is fraudulent as having been done without his knowledge and consent. Now, property, a beachfront property. Brian Masama or can say, media men can't so be uncle Tombi be amame. Me ma will be a 2 million uncle Tombi be amame. As they say, case na beye, police ni say. On plan the ton dear mammy. Brian so say me cast on cotton be amame. Sika waji kwa minimum. Entino, media me mo be a 2 minutes when ye be as amame. Now, court ni bobo na before a court rules, they will come to the issues that the court will determine. Now, in this case, what were the issues the court determined? One, I will say whether or not the third defendant executed the power of attorney for Evelyn lie to assign his interest to the property. Almost say, I did not court be decided back on. Brian with the am pass or no kosha baba on the chi. And I was sharing the one sign the power of attorney of Tom property na. Two, whether or not the alleged change in ownership of his property to the plaintiff smacks of fraud. Obi no Tom man no. Or Tom property nama Brian no. Sa change in sa process no na fraudulent na. 3. Whether or not the plaintiff is entitled to his relief sought. Plaintiff no ni obeka kire court to say why bibia genuine property ni ene dia na court onto enya authority e ma no ana so mon kase ni ono ne ye no kre na property ni me ne dia eye no kre sa na tie ana. 4. Whether or not the third defendant is entitled to his counterclaim. The counterclaim say no sha baba wa na say won no kre. The nyama 4 we na court to decide so mbebo case ni 31 pages. Obebre, me so mebre. It's the summary of it no. From page 5 we move it to page 20. And one of me kind case no. Now you're very revealing to me. Now page 20 no, e dey na see ho. Page 20 no started so mo to ababa wana no. Because they say na you no na akodi one abe between police ni ayamba or the petitioner call President Mahama so yenyi Chief Justice edi no. Ene abrantie na one ne twempena se ono afri Ghana eko ni krom Netherlands no. Page 20 no, an assembly koso na no, almost started said they were coming to test the legality of sa power of attorney no. Nti aha no, what title no say validity of Evelyn K. Lie's power of attorney. Now, third defendant is claiming that he never donated the power of attorney to Madam Evelyn Lie, authorizing her to sell the property on his behalf. In his statement of defense, third defendant alleged fraud in the following terms. Nientia Brian was saying, no, catch a baba, one say one no. Any one. The third defendant, in response to paragraph 14 of the amended statement of claim, avers that any change in ownership of his property to the plaintiff was done by fraud, as he has not at any time assigned his interest in the property to the plaintiff and was done by fraud. 1. Surreptitiously and without third defendant's knowledge and consenting, obtaining an assignment of third defendant's property. In a civil action, an allegation that the crime has been committed must be proven beyond reasonable doubt. This rule is encapsulated under section 13(1) of the MRCD 2323, which provides in any civil or criminal action the burden of persuasion as to the commission by a party of crime which is directly in issue requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Or say, who Brian na wo beka say girl no one man authority no ye no na ye fraud no. The responsibility lies on you to prove to the court beyond reasonable doubt to say ampa ade na again ye fraud. Matia say or say so because obi e di obi dreamer wa wo make allegation no wo na say what the documents and krata evidence eba be kire sampa ne nipa ne ye dream brofo kakrake yo mo law brofo no say that ya yonkoso and ono cite case or say Fenuku versus John Tate 2021 ne ade nyina kire se sa na mmra no etie now omo toto na no tie question no omo toto bi ano omo busa ababaawa no say, will you agree with me the second page is a scanned document as against the first page? Say, what scan the document? Any original document, no? And ye pay. What scan here? A beba to say why original document photocopy, no? And to want our signature, no? A beye in ink, and ye in pen. And Musa Baba one is a second document now, baby a signature, no a branch signature, when I scanned. And that's a fair document now, your original copy, no? And Baba one bet say, sa time I obey sa power of attorney, no? No, the brand dim kono, but not brand ni Ghana. Into one no SND document ne koma Abraham ewo Netherlands. Enti Abraham SNSN bibia no ye scan and odi mail no. Enti se wo pe pen inka unya. Ubenya no te se nyaye photocopy ne sa na abenya ba unya pen ink wo so. Usen kweta so mu. I want Abraham obeka se da binya sanete ye kura. Na one ge na twempna no. Ne documents bi ebedi ge ne wo ewo mpratwe nim including the passport. Na girl no eko yi ni signature na ewo so passport biodata na u signature ewo so e wona girl no ko tam sa signature na ne other details be the year ni oye no one consult no there's no email trace so the document bi abre no ewo Netherlands ho na omu kom le Ghana ye free bibi notary republic omu ye nkrofo ben omu ye nkrofo officially they are known. Say, and I'm Ramon can say they need to authenticate documents. It will be so cool school near the person chess or documents and a notary republic in and a notary officer no and the be notify catch a document where you genuine. Now, or this had the free Netherlands, but allegedly no Brian said no yeah no. I know more quite chimota. A copy of notary republic be no authenticate here. Now court ni ruling no. Court ni ruling say tiana ya bedu ruling no obi aboni nkure ruling ni. In the ruling, the court made a very interesting declaration in the ruling. Or say, sa process na go through the notary officer. No, it was fraudulent. It was fraudulent because the person authorized by the state to administer the oath must attest to the authenticity of the signatures. And so when se nipa na sign. In this case, the authenticity nipa na sign in Netherlands and ati achimota say no based on this judgment. What you say? So that was when the first time a court in the said debi. Ni emrantie yi nye ken entasum. So that was it. Or say the above authorities or notary notice was cited by counsel for the third defendant in court. Find them useful as they spell out the role of notary republic in the execution of the power of attorney. A notary republic can only attest to the authenticity of a power of attorney if the document is executed before him. It was say the notary republic no obetimi assign document na bra nipa no authenticate na why sa power of attorney e won in this case nipa no to Netherlands. In the Eveline, okas what the document command on Netherlands, and a notary ni assigned to a legitimate adequate property na, and no cressa, and manana massa aquino. So this is where the issue is. Now Nininan came fuano. Almost I say for Fidelity Bank case be as I did in because when you are there. Nininan came fuano. See, and a court no, a kind. Court and say fraud. Omo establish yes a process na again at the time dey no e fraudulent again omo wie no omo bo cost papa no omo bo ne ka 10,000 Ghana cedi and omo catch lands commission say sa this no omo sesa no e ma property ni be di police ni nsem no omo yi sa this ni free because processes are fast so the toss sa dey no na fraudulent. Now the interesting is say court no man sa ruling omo use certain words be I think say I want to share police officer no ebufu. A man case ni travel to the Supreme Court no. O man ebufu ya sebi o koke kan sembia na enye se okeka no. Oh me hunta party e wenfa. Omo kan say oh ye lawyer, oh ye senior police officer. It's in the case. Oh, my mistress, me who no before. So, catch and so you senior lawyer. And didn't know what cut this process when I wouldn't him lawyer for process saying that here. Now, when this process, no so. Okay, I'm not seeing it because of maybe the whole thing, but the last concluding part is that the Lands Commission is therefore ordered to strike out the name of the plaintiff from the deeds register. It's the High Court now attack in the ruling, you know. Say in assembly say Lands Commission deeds now more than a police officer or the case yabano. We're different assam no a butiano. And therefore ya tuni case naturally. Case in travel here to the Supreme Court. Now at the Supreme Court, no, according to Ghana Web, this is what happened. I think I make us a me say and pass papay plaintiff you know here or one of the petitioners against the Chief Justice Nini. On the 14th of November 2023, Assembly travel here to the Supreme Court continue and the Supreme Court confirming High Court no kind of takrade no. It you can mind John online so no see Supreme Court upholds High Court verdict on fraudulence of property by senior officer. The story is dated 28 March 2024. That is after the incident of 14th November 2023. 14th November 2020, what happened at court? According to my John online, you know, time a case in the court na nibu fui. And I started say what team. And the Supreme Court justice is catch and say, oh, a lawyer. Beside a senior police officer, asam na ba eka to boase. Allegedly, according to report, a Branton in Sembia or Kayeno, the outburst, the Supreme Court, Satan, not Chief Justice, the Tepano, so it dreams are comments in any behavior and as a contempt of court. Into Supreme Court or die, say engine in free court room. In fact, the method say, Omo awardeno some 2 hours of jail time, more kodem mukakra. Owie no ni suban nti no omoma na subsequent imposition of 10,000 Ghana cedis against him. It almost just an echo na bufuo abrante ni modo. So it even took lawyers, senior lawyer Dr. Bassett Bamba etua ado na omugina court anim. Say na ehun say ayuko to call patcho emasam bisesa say John no bibisa na omo patcho to omo sere no we dey tamper justice with mercy and I'm cause just tamper justice with mercy my friend Chabranti. The Supreme Court even justice for mine. And so a cabitra branch and say, be a lawyer pan I be say, be a vianine papa. Eti a branch any case or the common Supreme Court and I say allegedly sorry, the petition that come President Mahama no. One of the alleged reasons is that or say Sa Supreme Court incident is see on 14th November no. Okoji tape no. No okoji tape no. Nienti ya award sa 10,000 ni tia no. Ani nienti ya mani ko jail no no ntene ho ase na obelieve say Chief Justice some obi a tamper with tape no. Because ono na dimo no ni see 14th November nyeni nyina na wo tape no so. Therefore the Chief Justice has tampered with evidence and that is a serious crime. So say the Chief Justice has tampered with evidence. And unim justice and the judiciary yakaso be tamper with evidence is serious crime. And therefore, the petition, one of the reasons I want to say even ye the Mahama is because believe say some video footage, you know, the woman allegedly tampered with the evidence. So this is one petitioner, Mediamam. This is one petition. Now, the second petition is that, per my sources, there's another petitioner allegedly almost say some about 2021 instances to be a Chief Justice be a Chief Justice or the judiciary seeker are private travels allegedly. In fact, I'm quote here to the sum that there's about 261,000 cedis allegedly. Oni ni kune ne ba ede atukwan na enye se oyusu se esika no sana omo ka. Now my sources tell me say Supreme Court justice no omo was some conditions of service. They said speaker publicly name say speaker maybe I know yare ko Dubai ya den ni bibia akra koye. So because of the position of Okra as the third commanding officer when it comes to the affairs of the state, you know, they be say president, chief, no about vice president, no about speaker, no about fourth no. Or sa kwan so use say sika no. That's what my source also tells me. Allegation in here or no explanation of the man no. And these are the two petitions I know. So what I've established for you is the first petition, is the second petition, which are all allegations. But I've told you the first petition which are circumstantial evidences. Your man called them or court. What's Ghana where report now? So evidence in na mami gidi say and no de no cresa branty and also only chief just oh beef kakra. Into the petition akwa nyawa. The third reason is that Mahama has every right to suspend a chief justice pending the determination of petition be a diabase yinedi based on Article 14610A of the 1992 Constitution. I believe say my treating the yamon. So won't be a you can ask me in the comment section. I have a critical analyst channel. If you're huge no say to message so best subscribe mommy. Or subscribe here, click the bell notification with the video be at my be who to me a shippy. Say the debut American media me here Ghana and so here. Into message so be sure who see ye at the mommy. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.